Akaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupaswarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Sarvebhyo Namaha. Welcome to this session. Today we will be ending the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, the last two shlokas. Before I do those shlokas, let me do a recap of what we did in the last session. This was the last session's last shloka. Sri Bhagavan says, Yasmat ksharam atitoham aksharadapi chottamaha atosmi loke vedecha pratitaha purushottamaha. Since I am superior to both Kshara and Akshara, I am the supreme. Hence, I am celebrated in the Veda as well as in the world as Purushottama, the supreme person. This has come at the end of explaining so many other things in the 15th chapter. Sri Bhagavan began by to an inverted people tree, Ashwattha Vriksha. That was the samsara, the material existence. Then he went on to tell us that we should endeavor to cut down that material existence or chop down that people tree. Why? Because our real state of existence is the same as his state of existence. That is what we should aspire to go towards. And he said that once we attain that state of existence, then we will not return to this state of existence, this material state of existence, because that state is far superior. It gives us far greater happiness. So when we use the word superior, inferior, what is the criterion for saying something is superior to something else? Well, fundamentally, the criterion is the criterion of inner happiness. Because happiness is our common goal. It is the ultimate goal of life or ultimate goal of all existence. Everything that we do, everything that we are working for, living for, everything that we seek ultimately finds its end in the pursuit of happiness. Whatever we do, we want to do it because we think it will make us happier. And therefore, what gives us the best form of happiness, the happiness that is not only the best in quality, but also sustains forever, which doesn't end. Happiness which doesn't have intermittent misery in it. That form of happiness is the natural happiness that we are entitled to and which is natural for us, which we can realistically aspire for and achieve. And that is what he is trying to take us towards. And he says once somebody achieves that state of happiness, then there is no question of returning back to this state, because in that state, one is also perfectly knowledgeable and one will not do anything by which one will come back to the samsara. So after saying all that, Sri Bhagavan then again comes back to explaining the jiva's role in the samsara. The jivatma is here because of attachment to the mind and the senses, and he carries that, the mind and the senses, from one body to another body, etc. And eventually, after saying all this, he talks about himself, because at the center of everything is Sri Bhagavan. He is the uniting factor. Everything rests in him. So he reveals more about himself. In the whole Gita, every now and then we see him talking about himself, sometimes in the third person and sometimes in the first person, as in this shloka that we are reading now. So in the 18th shloka, this is what he says, that he is superior to both types of jivatmas, the ones which are fallen and the ones which are already pure and liberated. He is superior to both of them. And so he is called Purushottama. So now moving forward, in the 19th shloka, Sri Bhagavan says, Yo mam evam asammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarvabhavena bharata. Yo mam evam asammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarvabhavena bharata. Says yo means yaha, one who. Mam, me. Asammudaha, one who is free from any kind of confusion, ambiguity, one who is very clear in his consciousness. And in that clear state of consciousness, one who knows that I am Purushottama, I am that supreme personality or supreme being. Saha, what does that person do after knowing that or after having that realization? Sarvavit. Sarvavit means such a person is all knowledgeable, means knowing Sri Bhagwan as the supreme being is the perfection of knowledge. Not just knowing theoretically, but realizing it through one's own consciousness, being completely conscious of it all the time. Such a person is Sarvavit. Sarvavit means one who knows everything, one who is knowledgeable, perfectly knowledgeable. What does that person do? Bhajati mam. Bhajati means does service, engages in service. He serves me. Bhajati mam means he serves me. What is meant by serving Sri Bhagavan? Serving Sri Bhagavan, it's not like Bhagavan is some cruel dictator who's sitting there and we have to, unless we serve him, we will be punished and we will suffer. And he's an angry person expecting us to serve him. Not at all like that. That is a completely wrong understanding when we say serving Bhagavan. Serving Bhagavan means understanding his desires, understanding what he wants, and aligning oneself to those desires or that mentality, adopting the same mentality that he has. This is called ekata. Ekata means oneness, oneness with Sri Bhagavan, thinking the way he thinks, adopting his paradigm, adopting his way of looking at this world, wearing his lens and looking at this world, looking at all of existence, right? And what is that lens? So that is the lens of paropakar, niraparad and paropakar. Paropakar means living for the welfare of others, not thinking of oneself as the priority, thinking of everybody's welfare first, and then through that, thinking of one's welfare. One's welfare lies in giving welfare to others. This is how Sri Bhagavan looks at this world. So, adopting that mentality, that is the meaning of ekata with Bhagavan, that mentality that he has. And anukulata. Anukulata is the tatastha lakshana of bhakti. The swarup lakshana of bhakti is ekata. Tatastha lakshana, or the supporting, complementing property or supplementary property, you can say, is something that goes with ekata. Based on that ekata, anukulata happens. Anukulata means doing things which are pleasing to him, right? Acting in an anukul manner. Anukul means that which is pleasing, convenient, that which gives comfort, that which gives satisfaction. So behavior, you can see this is something very easy to understand. We see so many people in this world, we interact with so many people, and we are able to see that some people are inbuilt in terms of their anukulata towards other people. They know how to conduct themselves, the way they talk, the way they make decisions. Uh, it's so pleasant. You like to interact with them. You want to spend more time with them. You want to see them more often, right? That's called anukulata. Means you feel pleased when you interact with them. So similarly, if we conduct ourselves in a manner that Sri Bhagavan is pleased with us, he likes the way we behave. Okay, later on in today's class, I will talk about the different qualities, some of the qualities which are pleasing to him. And then we will understand this better. So, sarvavid bhajati mam, one engages in anukulata and ekata with Bhagavan. Sarva bhavena bharata, in all respects, sarva bhavena. It's not just, partially or sometimes. It's like sometimes when people talk about spirituality or spiritual knowledge or knowledge about the Supreme Being, about the Ishvara, people make a comment that हाँ हाँ, वो भी इम्पोर्टेंट है लाइफ में, वो भी थोड़ा करना चाहिए, राइट, उसके लिए भी थोड़ा सा टाइम रखना चाहिए. That is not what is meant by sarva bhavena. Sarva bhavena means that all the time, in all respects, the Ishvara is in the center of our life. Anything we do is based on the thought that this will be pleasing to Him or this will not be pleasing to Him, and therefore we will not do it. We don't want it, right? So that thinking, sarva bhavena, in all respects, with all our bhav, our whole bhav is based on His existence. It's not like also important. It is the most important thing. It's the most central thing to think like that. Sarva bhavena bharata. So here, Sri Bhagavan is essentially talking about, is summing up his position as the Purushottama. And he says, this is what is meant by perfection of spirituality or perfection of existence. Okay, spirituality is not a hobby. It is meant to be our existence, and we do all our activities in life with this consciousness. This consciousness replaces the consciousness that I am the enjoyer. मैं भोगता हूँ. Everything is for me. This world. You see, by default, that is how many of us think. The world seems to be centered around us, right? If somebody does not wish us on our birthday, we feel upset. Sometimes we feel insulted. We feel ignored, right? People have to wish us. People have to treat us well. Everything is centered around us. I am the center of this universe. No, that is wrong. The correct understanding, the Ishvara is the center. I am just a small fragment and I am trying to sync myself with Him. And in doing that lies the perfection of my happiness. All anxieties go away. All, troublesome thoughts, all unnecessary disturbance in the mind, everything goes away when we adopt that particular view. So my translation of the shloka, O Bharata, one who, with proper understanding, knows me this way as Purushottama, the Supreme Person, is all-knowing and serves me in all respects. Next, we do the last shloka of the 20th chapter. Iti guhyatamam shastram idamuktam maya nakha etad buddhva buddhiman syat kritakrityascha bharata. Iti guhyatamam shastram idamuktam maya nakha etad buddhva buddhiman syat kritakrityascha bharata. So the conclusion of the 15th chapter, he says that this most secretive knowledge, guhyatamam, guhyam means secret, something that is secretive. Guhyataram means more secretive. If you are comparing two secrets, then you will say one of them is more secret than the other thing. It should be kept, it should be guarded more carefully. But then guhyatamam means amongst all secretive things, the most secretive thing. Iti guhyatamam shastram. This shastra which I have just spoken to you in the 15th chapter is the most secretive, right? Idam uktam maya anagha. Anagha means one who is free from agha. Agha means what? Agha means papa. Papa, or in English we say sin. Doing something that goes against dharma, that violates dharma, which is probably himsatmaka, which troubles others, which causes difficulty to other people, which breaks the basic laws of peaceful existence. So all that is sin, right? Papa, agha. So Arjuna is also called as anagha. Anagha means one who never commits pap. He's pure-hearted. His heart is very pure, right? He's not a papatma. He's a punyatma. He's one of daivi prakriti. So he says that I have spoken to you because you are of this nature. You are anagha. Because you are anagha, you have the qualification to hear this confidential knowledge. So why does he say it is secretive? Why is he saying this is the most secretive knowledge? That's simply because it is not understood or accepted by all. Most people think that this is just some belief, right? It's just some religious belief. It is just something that people think because they want peace of mind, or people are irrational because they are irrational. They are not able to think logically. They are not able to understand science. So they accept all these things. So a lot of people do not accept it, right? Of course, many other people do accept it. Many intelligent people, very logical people, including scientists. The best of scientists also accept this. For example, we know Oppenheimer, that was one such personality, who was a fanatic almost. I would not use the word fanatic, but I would say completely devoted to the Gita. The Gita formed the center of his life, right? So, leaving a few exceptions like that, many people find it difficult to accept it. And so, Guhyatamam, it is very secretive that even when you give it to them, it doesn't go inside. It just gets rejected, right? So, it remains untouched. And another interpretation of secretive is that because people are offensive in nature, do not give this to them. If you give this to them and they commit an offense to it, then they will incur pap. That will lead them to pap and probably block their chances of understanding this in the future too. So that is another perspective of calling this guhyatamam. Don't give it to people liberally. Don't just give it to anybody like that. Look for somebody who is willing, who is receptive, who is open minded, whose mind is open to considering that this might be true. There might be something valuable in this. Give it to such a personality. Then it will benefit that person because he's open. If somebody is closed in their mind, the moment they hear Bhagavad Gita, they become, they take on a particular lens and they straight away reject it. Then don't give it to them. So that's the meaning of Guhyatamam. So these are two different ways in which Guhyatamam can be understood. So he says, now I have spoken this to you because you are free from pap and you will definitely appreciate this. So what happens? Etat buddhva, knowing this, having understood this, buddhiman syat, one becomes really knowledgeable. One gets that pure paroksha jnana. Paroksha jnana means that which is not visible to the naked eyes, that which cannot be easily perceived with our senses, that which is beyond our senses, that becomes a reality to that person. Etat buddhva buddhiman syat. Kritakrityascha bharata. He also becomes not only buddhiman but kritakrityaha, means one who has achieved what has to be achieved in life, one who has attained what needs to be attained, or one who has accomplished what needs to be accomplished. That's the meaning of krita krityaha. Krityaha means that which needs to be done. Krita means that which has been done. So that which needs to be done has been done by that person. That person is called krita krityaha. So what is it referring to here? It refers to the goal of life. The goal of life is perfection, spiritual perfection, understanding our identity in relation to Sri Bhagavan and as a pure Jivatma that is free from this samsara. So kritakrityaha. So a person who understands the Bhagavad Gita thoroughly becomes both a buddhiman, he has aparoksha gyan, and in doing so, he becomes a kritakrityaha. So this is what Sri Bhagavan says in concluding the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And this gives us a barometer, or you can say a benchmark against which we can design our life. Let me read my translation. O Anagha, sinless one, thus this most secretive knowledge has been spoken by me. O Bharata, by knowing this, one becomes perfectly knowledgeable and accomplished in what ought to be done. So we have completed the 20 shlokas of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And in the next session, I will touch upon a summary. I'll do a summary of the whole 15th chapter, the main themes that were seen in the 15th chapter, and we'll then look at the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, if you look at the 15th chapter by itself, it covers almost everything that the Gita otherwise covers. So the whole Gita, you can say, in some sense, is summarized in the 15th chapter. It touches upon all the major themes of the Gita in this chapter. So we will look at it in the next week's class. Today, I wanted to read from a particular book written by a scholar who lived in the 20th century and also a part of the 21st century, Sri Haridas Shastri. His book is, this particular book is called Dina Chandrika. It gives us tips for how to live a spiritual life on a daily basis. And he makes very interesting points. And one of the places he talks about the 5 yamas and the 5 niyamas. So these are also mentioned in yoga. And although they are mentioned in the Yoga Shastra, Patanjali's Yoga Shastra, They are relevant to all forms of sadhana. Anybody doing any kind of sadhana, whether it's in alignment with the Patanjali yoga system or not, if it is based on the Veda, then these are very, very fundamental and relevant. So what are they? And how can we practice them? Let's just quickly go through this. It's only about a page and a half. I'll read this. It's in Hindi, and we will then discuss. So there are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. Yama means in Sanskrit uh, restraint or control, restraint, discipline, self-discipline. So what are the 5 angas of self-discipline? Ahimsa, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. So what do they mean? Ahimsa means किसी की अनिष्टजनक अथवा अपमानजनक शारीरिक वाचिक चेष्टा न करना. So living in a way by which we do not insult anybody or behave in a way that is undesirable, anishtajanak, which makes them feel uncomfortable or displeased through our body or through our words. In fact, he says, us manasik bhav poshan bhi na karna. So even in the mind. So 3 levels in our body, with our hands and legs, with our words, and with our mind as well. Right now, what we do with our body and our hands and legs and our words are visible to others. Others can see that. So that we should definitely not do, because people will immediately feel insulted when we do that. And refraining from that is also a good way to live. Even if somebody doesn't believe in spirituality or sadhana, if they follow that form of ahimsa, then they will be successful, because people will like them. People will like their company because they are well disciplined, well cultured, their behavior is good, and they don't insult anyone. So that way, even if they are just materialistic people, following ahimsa is favorable to them, because they will then be successful with other people. But here he says that manasik bhav poshan bhi na karna. Even in the mind, that thinking should not be there. Because ultimately, our spirituality happens through our mind, our mental state. So in our mind, if we are thinking ill of others, if we are wishing ill for them, or if we are insulting them, abusing them, let's say, in our mind we abuse others, but externally we behave nicely to them. Externally we are thinking, we act as if we are good, we speak good words, we show a lot of helpfulness outside. But internally we are just thinking, how do I get this done by that guy? How do I quickly manipulate this person? How do I make him do what I want? This kind of shrewdness. So if you're doing that, then that's called kapatta. And that kapatta completely goes against spirituality. Spirituality requires the very first thing, ahimsa, is to be able to, in our mind, think well for others, wish well for them, wish happiness for them before wishing happiness for ourselves. This is called manasik sadhana. So ahimsa, मानसिक भाव पोषण भी न करना. जब तक मैं, विद इन कोट्स, मैं केवल निज लाभ पूजा प्रतिष्ठा का अनुसंधान रहता है, तब तक परहेलन प्रभृति हिंसा कार्य अनिवार्य रूप होगा. So as long as we think ourselves as the object of puja, I want others to worship me, I want others to give me position, fame. We look for others' appreciation, others praise, glorification. Then there is always a tendency to do himsa. He makes a very subtle point. He says that himsa comes not just by, the loose translation of himsa in English is killing something, killing an animal or killing a human being. But that's a very, very crude and very gross translation. Real himsa is this, that in the mind, there's a bhav of, let that person suffer, let that person fail. It's a good thing that he failed. I want him to suffer because, he did not wish me on my birthday. He must suffer. People should ignore him. Look how he is ignoring me. This kind of thinking, right? Jab tak that thinking is there, then himsa will happen. Himsa exists in our mind. मैं पर्यंत सूक्ष्म रूप से हिंसा रहता है. As long as that मैं means me, I, me. As long as that I and me exist, or mine, I, me and mine exist, then himsa remains in the mind. Himsa to समझने में आती है, किंतु सूक्ष्म हिंसा समझना शक्त है. इट्स डिफिकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड. कार्य काय वाक्य मन से प्राणी मात्र को उद्वेग न देकर एवं विश्व दृष्टि की रीति से सर्वत्र इष्ट भावना के द्वारा हिंसा वृत्ति विदूरित होती है. सो थिंकिंग ऑफ विश्व दृष्टि मीन्स टू थिंक दैट द सेम ईश्वर दैट आई एम वर्शिपिंग is present in all of them. Every single living being is actually an abode of that Ishwar. Ishvara is present inside all of them. And thereby, if I behave in an inappropriate way with anybody, even in my mind, if I wish ill for anybody, I'm actually wishing ill for that Ishvara. And I am therefore insulting my own Ishtadevata. And therefore, it defeats my sadhana. It's harmful to my sadhana. So, to make my sadhana successful, I have to wish well for everybody, and that is the very first thing. The most basic requirement in any kind of spiritual sadhana to understand Bhagavad-Gita is that. Next is Satya. Yathayat Roop Vakya Evam Man ki avastha hai means acting in accordance with the truth, accepting the truth, and conducting oneself with the truth. Drishta Evam Shruta Padarth ko Yathayat Kehna isme hota hai. So when we speak something, we speak things as they are. राग एवं द्वेष से बढ़ाकर चढ़ाकर कहना सत्य का विरोधी है. अरे तुम तो बहुत हैंडसम लगते हो यार आज, तुम तो बहुत चतुर हो, तुम तो स्मार्ट आदमी हो. सो प्रेजिंग पीपल लाइक दैट falsely without really meaning to, right, just for fun, even for fun, right, is absolutely wrong, because flattering somebody goes asatya. Of course, it doesn't mean that we should go and criticize people, okay, because most of the time we see faults in people. It's much easier to see somebody at fault than to see somebody has done something good. So, by being Satya, practice of Satya does not mean that we should go and now frankly say, I think you're a fool. I think you are full of defects. I think I don't like you. I think you are very ugly looking. No, it doesn't mean that. Satya just means that when we speak something, speak what is appropriate and speak the truth. So there is a very simple principle. It says, Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, na bruyat satyam apriyam. Priyam cha nanritam bruyat, esha dharma sanatana. Satyam bruyat, speak the truth. Priyam bruyat, but speak the truth in a pleasant manner. Priyam means this is an adverb. The word priyam is used as an adverb for the verb bruyat. Means how to speak. Satyam bruyat, speak the truth, but speak it in a manner that is pleasing to the person. Don't put it in a way that will hurt the person. So even if you want to tell somebody that they have done something wrong, or they're making a mistake, or there is something shortcoming in them, say it appropriately. First of all, consider whether you have the authority to say it. Will that person be willing to listen to you? Do you have in their eyes, are you an authority to go and tell them that they have done something wrong? If you are not, then don't say it, ignore it. But now, if you have the authority also, just because you have the authority, don't go and say it in a manner that will hurt them. Say it in a way that will make them understand that there is something wrong in them and that probably they can do something about it. And then leave it to them. Let them do it if they have the intelligence to do it. Otherwise, we have to just leave it. Of course, if you are in a job and they are supposed to report to you and do what you are supposed to tell them, that you tell them, then there is also an implication that if they don't do what they are told to do, then you have to take action. That is a different thing, right? But dealing with Satya has to be done in a very careful manner. Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, na bruyat satyam apriyam. So don't tell the Satya in an unpleasant manner. Don't say something, even if it is the truth, in a manner that hurts people. Unless, of course, it's required as a part of the task to tell them. If somebody is a thief, for example, somebody engages in deliberate lying, cheating, then you have to tell him in a manner that will hurt him. Because unless you do that, that criminal will not change. Some people have a criminal mentality and they tend to cheat, they tend to lie, they will lie. Even if there is no need to lie, they will lie. So such people have to be dealt with in that manner. That is the meaning of doing things in an appropriate manner, right? So with such people, you don't have to be pleasant. You have to deal with them in that way. That is the only way to keep them on track, keep them in the proper way. If you treat them in a very polite and diplomatic manner, they will continue to do what wrong they are doing, right? So intelligence is required, practical wisdom. So satyam bruyat priyam bruyat na bruyat satyam apriyam priyam cha nanritam bruyat. Now here he says, when you speak pleasant things, make sure that whatever pleasant things you speak, let it not be false. Because that person then either will not take you seriously after that, or will accept what you say as the truth and be fooled by you, right? And this is how the world actually runs. World runs on speaking pleasant things to fool people. They go and say that you look so good or you're so intelligent. I liked your class so much. Sometimes students come and tell me. Sometimes I can make out that they are saying it just to ensure that I'll be kind to them when I do the grading or something, right? I can make that out. So I know that, okay, maybe some people do like my class, but it's not the whole class like me. Everybody, there are always differences. There's some people who like a teacher, some people who don't like the same person. So that's reality. So when somebody praises you excessively, you can make out that, okay, there is something that he wants in return from me. And that kind of behavior is what is condemned here. So it's don't do that. Don't praise people exaggerating in a manner that you'll get something out of them, get returns out of them, or that is socially correct. Don't do that. Right? That is wrong to do. So satyam bruyat priyam bruyat na bruyat satyam apriyam priyam chananritam bruyat esha dharma sanatana. This is sanatana dharma. So we are being taught dharma, which is very, very fine, very subtle. So here he says, यथात रूप वाक्य एवं मन की अवस्था है, दृष्ट एवं श्रुत पदार्थ को यथायथ कहना इसमें होता है। राग एवं द्वेष से बड़ा चढ़ाकर कहना सत्य का विरोधी है। श्री गुरुदेव की महिमा भी मिथ्या रूप से बड़ा चढ़ाकर कहने की चेष्टा सत्य साधना का विरोधी है। So even to one's own guru or one's own teacher, right? It could be one's diksha guru or one's shiksha guru or adhyapak, upadhyay. Never tell that person something that you don't really believe. If you have really benefited from their lessons, it's fine to go and tell them that, Acharya, I benefited from you because of your lessons. I learned a lot and it has changed my life. There's nothing wrong in saying that. But say it in a manner that you genuinely feel that way. If you don't genuinely feel that way, but you just want to sound good and you want some favor from your teacher in return, you want your teacher to say that you are a good student and so on, and you want to hear such things, and you want your teacher to tell other people that you are a smart guy, then don't do it. That is asatya. बड़ा चढ़ा कर कहना सत्य का विरोधी है। उनके सत्य चरित्र के मध्य में ही ईश्वरीय महिमा का अवधारण करना आवश्यक है। So always see your guru as a servant of Bhagavan. Guru is a servant of Bhagavan. Guru is a part of Bhagavan. And when you praise him, also praise Ishwar. Also praise Bhagavan. This is the second yama. The third yama is asteya. Asteya means what? Steya अर्थात चोरी करने का भाव न होना. Steya means chaurya bhav. Steya, stealing others' property. जिसका मालिक नहीं है उसको प्राप्त करने की इच्छा भी steya है. So sometimes we steal or somebody steals, a thief steals. I mean, most of us don't steal, but whoever steals, typically they would steal from somebody who has a possession, right? You see somebody's property, somebody has a good looking mobile phone, and the thief wants to steal it. So silently he goes when that person is not looking and goes away with that mobile phone. So that is a person stealing from someone property that belongs to them. But here he points out that जिसका मालिक भी नहीं है उसको भी प्राप्त करने की इच्छा स्थेय होता है. So even if you see something which is not owned by anybody or which has been left behind by anyone, okay, then you feel good. ये मोबाइल फोन छोड़ के चला गया, पता नहीं किसका है, it's in a public place, right? चलो, मिल गया, भगवान के आशीर्वाद है. That is also stealing. Don't think Bhagavan is giving it to you. If you want to help that person, then take the mobile phone and find out who that person is. It may be possible to track the person looking at the mobile phone's details. It may be possible to get the mobile phone unlocked from a mobile repair shop and locate the identity of the person, then call the person and tell them that I have your phone, or connect with that person in some manner. If you cannot call him because the phone is with you, try to find out who that person is, right? Or put up a notice. So recently I had a small experience. I had gone to some place, and I left my car there. I parked my car there, and I happened to leave the keys of the car or the door itself. I locked the door, and I forgot to take the keys and put the keys in my pocket or in my bag. Normally I do that, but this time I forgot and I went away. I went on my job. So I came back about 2, 3 hours later, and I reached out into my bag to pull out the keys. I couldn't find my keys, and then I searched all over my body, my pockets, all my pockets, and I emptied the whole bag, and I just couldn't find the keys. And I wondered, has the key fallen somewhere on the way? And just thinking what happened. And then I saw a note on the front of the car, on the windscreen from the outside. There was a note somebody had put saying that it was written in Hindi, and it was written on some waste paper which had been lying on the ground. So somebody had picked up some waste paper and put a note for me. It said that आपने चाबी कार में ही छोड़ दी है और मेरे पास है. And that person had put his number there and also put his name there. And that person said, मैं भी कुछ काम में गया हूँ तो मैं कुछ देर के बाद लौट के आपको चाबी दे दूंगा. So I felt so good. Oh my God, there are people like this existing in this world. That this gentleman, he saw that I had left the key, and he probably thought that, if that key was lying there, then somebody can come, open the door, and steal something from within the car and go away. And so he thought, he's a complete stranger, but he thought, why not help this person whom he doesn't know? He took the key and went away, and then put this note. So I called him, and immediately, first I couldn't get him because he was out of the signal range, and then after a few minutes I got him, and then we had a conversation, and eventually my key came back. So this is something that one can do. Just because you find something, it doesn't become your property. And this person didn't look like somebody who's doing some major spiritual sadhana or something. It's just somebody like, somebody like anyone else. So he had this character in him. He could think ahead. He could think what could happen and then think of helping someone completely unknown to him. So this way, if we conduct ourselves, it's very pleasing to Bhagavan. This is called asteya. And the fourth yama is brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is very simple to understand. Stri purush vishayak yauna bhav kaya vakya manase tyag karna hi brahmacharya. In all aspects, not only with our body, brahmacharya is not only not engaging in sexual activity, but not talking about it also is brahmacharya. And not even thinking about it in the mind, not having any thoughts of sexual activity in the mind at any point of time is brahmacharya. And brahmacharya becomes easy to do when you are engaged in proper spiritual sadhana, particularly japa. Right? Sometimes people ask this question that, these thoughts keep coming to me once in a while, especially if I look at some very good looking personality of the opposite sex, then I automatically feel attracted to that person, and this thought comes to my mind. How do I overcome it? It disturbs me. I cannot concentrate on my work. Now, my response to that from my personal experience is that if you're doing spiritual sadhana every day seriously, especially japa, harinam japa, then brahmacharya becomes very easy to follow. These thoughts never come to the mind. In fact, even if somebody indirectly alludes to that, you don't just feel attracted, you don't feel interested in it. There's no interest in it, right? And so brahmacharya is not as difficult to follow as it sometimes may seem to be. So that is brahmacharya. And then the fifth yama is aparigraha. Aparigraha, dusre ka dravya na lena. This is grabbing. Okay, this is different from stealing. This is like land grabbing, right? Today we see a lot of this happening in India. Land grabbing, किसी की जमीन को कब्जा कर देना. अथवा आवश्यकता के थे अतिरिक्त धन संचय न करना ही अपरिग्रह है. That is chasing material possessions and wealth unlimitedly, much more than what is required, going beyond one's means, working hard, working extra to just accumulate wealth, building wealth, building property. That is also a form of parigraha. So aparigraha means identifying your boundaries and saying that, okay, now I have enough to give me a secure living, and some money will keep flowing, arranging for some amount of money to take care of us. We need basic security, safety, a hygienic place to live, ensuring that all that is in place, and then giving our time, energy for spiritual sadhana. So aparigraha is not only about grabbing from others, others' possessions, but also about not accumulating too much, more than what is required. So these are the five yamas: ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. And these we should make a poster and put it up and see it every day and say, today I should ensure that I practice all the five of these. Along with them, there are the five niyamas. The five niyamas are shaucha, santosha, tapasya, swadhyaya, and ishvara pranidhan. Okay, shaucha, santosha, tapasya, swadhyaya, and ishvara pranidhan. So very quickly I'll go through them. शौच is मिट्टी जल आदि के द्वारा बाहर शरीर परिष्कार करना बाह्य शौच है. प्रीति दया प्रभृति साधु भाव के द्वारा अंतर निर्मल करना ही अंतर शौच है. So cleanliness both outside and inside. Outside cleanliness is something that we are all familiar with. We talk a lot about hygiene, and anyone with a little bit of education, even the most uneducated people in our country, are conscious of their hygiene, except some people. Most people are conscious of hygiene. But internal hygiene is to cultivate preeti, looking at this world through affection, like we spoke about earlier, daya with kindness, sadhu bhav, tolerating others, के द्वारा अंतर निर्मल करना. Consciously, these things need to be consciously cultivated. It is called antar shaucha. Santosha, santosh, happiness or peace. निस्वार्थ, अभिसंधि शून्य रूप भाव से परोपकार आदि करने से जिस प्रकार अंतः प्रसन्नता होती है, दुखकर घटना के समय भी दुखकर घटना के समय भी उस प्रकार मनोभाव को अंतर में रखना ही संतोष साधना है. So thinking about paropakar, thinking about others' welfare, engaging in others' welfare, finding opportunities for others' welfare. Okay, I told you that I went for a trek to Dalma Hills, and as we were walking down from the trek, it was a very short trek actually, just 2 kilometers. And as we were coming down, we saw one young boy, maybe a college student. He was carrying a big plastic bag with him, and he was just picking up all the covers. Every now and then you encounter these plastic covers or wrappers, biscuit wrapper, chocolate wrapper, or tetra cans, soft drink tetra cans, all littered here and there, all along the trek route. And once we go to a place of resting place, there we find a lot more of it. So this boy was just quietly, he was not just trekking, but he was actually climbing, going upwards and just bending and picking and putting in the cover. And we saw him from a distance. He was coming towards that, and it was so nice. And so when he came nearby, we wished him, we said that you are doing great service. And this is something that inspires us also to think in this manner. So this is paropakar, thinking about others' welfare without expecting anything in return. Not for appreciation, just doing it because in your mind you think that, yeah, this is something I have to give to this world because I'm taking so much from it. And this gives antah prasanata. So what is the return you get? You don't get, you're not looking for appreciation, you're not looking for anything, you're just looking for that inner satisfaction. By doing this, internally you feel happy, and this happiness is what is referred to as santosh. That inner happiness which comes from paropakar, niswarth, becoming aswarthi and paropakari. दुखकर घटना के समय भी उस प्रकार मनोभाव को अंतर में रखना. Even when there is a difficult situation, being able to think in terms of paropakar, not only when there is a happy situation. When there is a happy situation, it's easier to think of paropakar than when there is a miserable situation. But building the strength by which, even when we are not perfectly in a peaceful situation, we should be able to think of others in terms of paropakar, parartha. उन्नत भाव प्रकाशित नहीं होता है. दुख क्लिष्ट चित्त में नाम ध्यान उन्नत भाव प्रकाशित नहीं होता है. स्फूर्ति भी नहीं होती है. आमोद हर्ष वृत्ति राजसिक भाव भी उन्नत भाव का प्रकाश का बाधक है. स्निग्ध पवित्र सात्विक भाव ही संतोष है. So cultivating sattva guna, because as long as we are under the influence of rajas and tamas, paropakar or pararthatva does not naturally come. That manobhav doesn't come. How much ever we try, we read a book like this book tells that we should think like this, but even if we try to think like that, it doesn't come. Very naturally, thoughts of criticality, ridicule, or thinking of how I can, put someone down, how I can defeat someone. This kind of thoughts naturally come. But when we are sattvic, by cultivating sattva guna inside us, by living a sattvic life, these thoughts become easier. Cultivating these thoughts become easier. Tapasya, the third niyama, tapasya. इंद्रिय सुख भोग से चित्त संकीर्ण होने से चित्त में पवित्र संतोष अथवा उन्नत भाव का विकास नहीं हो सकता है. So when we are ourselves craving for enjoyment, okay, indriya sukha bhog means material enjoyment which comes from our senses, the five senses. So when we are craving for that, okay, in different ways we crave for our indriya sukha. When we are craving for that, sankirna hota hai. Sankirna means the mind is churned or disturbed. चित्त संकीर्ण होने से चित्त में पवित्र संतोष अथवा उन्नत भाव का विकास नहीं हो सकता है. So in such a situation, it's not possible to feel that parartha santosh, that pararthatva santosh cannot come, because the mind is craving for enjoyment. It can only think of how can I get enjoyment at the cost of others. Material enjoyment always comes invariably by making somebody else unhappy, depriving somebody of what they want, okay, in the short term or the long term. So therefore, unless we are able to overcome that tendency, we cannot feel this kind of happiness. इस हेतु इंद्रिय सुख त्याग रूप तपस्या की आवश्यकता है. Why is tapasya required? Tapasya means consciously putting oneself in a position of restraint, putting oneself in a position that is uncomfortable, normally uncomfortable. जैसे व्रत उपवास प्रवृत्ति है. When we do vrata, for example, Ekadashi vrata or Janmashtami vrata or Shivaratri vrata, in different ways we do vrata. And in vrata, what do? When we do vrata, we consciously stay away from the things which give us sensual pleasure, the pleasure to our senses, like eating, for example. Eating is the most forceful sense among all the five senses we have. The most forceful of them, which is most difficult to overcome, is the sense of taste. So on a day of vrata, we consciously restrain ourselves from that. That is the reason why the vrata is done, so that we develop the strength to be able to overcome the craving, to be able to go beyond the craving. And if we are able to do the vrat properly, if we do the vrat properly with the resolve, with the sankalpa that I will not eat most of the food I eat normally, like grains, dal, rice dal, chapati, sabji, all the tasty food that I eat, one day I will not eat. I will manage with the bare minimum, like a little bit of fruit juice or some pieces of fruit or some boiled vegetables. For one day, I will manage like that. And I'll show to myself that I can actually overcome that craving for eating. It makes a big difference. So the very next day you feel, I'm feeling so much better. Mind feels so much lighter. You feel so much clearer in your thinking. Right? The benefit of that immediately comes. This is called tapasya. Tapasya is willingly taking up an uncomfortable situation. There are many other forms of tapasya. In the Gita, in the 17th chapter, Sri Bhagavan elaborates on tapasya in the form of kayika tapasya, vachika tapasya, manasika tapasya. So when we come to the 17th chapter, we will talk about them in more detail. Then swadhyaya, the fourth niyama is swadhyaya. Swadhyaya, as we understand, is study, self-study, but here he also includes japa. Japa evam grantha alochana prabriti ko swadhyaya kehte hain. So doing our daily japa meditation and doing grantha alochana, reading the grantha like Bhagavad-gita or a grantha like this that I'm reading from now, and contemplating on its meanings, thinking about how can I bring this into my life? What can I do by which this will be a part of me? How can I internalize this? This is called swadhyaya. Then the last niyama is Ishvara pranidhan. Pranidhan means giving one's consciousness to the Ishvara. यह यम नियम योग के की अंगीभूत है. यम नियम के अभाव से इष्ट सिद्धि नहीं होती है. रम्या उपासना रत व्यक्तिगण हरि लीला भक्त चरित्र श्रवणादि के द्वारा उसकी साधना करें. भक्ति विरोधी हिंसा भाव उद्धृत होने से विरुद्ध भावी द्वेषक भावी बोधक विरुद्ध भावित बोधक श्री हरि लीला भक्त चरित्र का श्रवणानुष्ठान करे। हिंसा के समय कारुण्य लीला, असत्य भाव के समय सत्यनिष्ठा. So he's giving us clues as to how we can actually try to eliminate the negative thoughts. Okay, we in the Western literature we say negative thoughts and positive thoughts. So how do you eliminate these negative thoughts like himsatmaka vichar? uh, he says, think of karunya leela, think of Sri Bhagavan's leelas which were about kindness, think of his quality. Think of some leela of Bhagavan in which he was very kind to somebody, right? Like, for example, he protected the residents of Raja. We've been reading about how he protected them from Kaliya. So when Kaliya came, Sri Bhagavan goes there and does a leela by which Kaliya is sent out of Vrindavan. So think of his Karunya leela. Asatya bhav ke samay satya nishtha. So think of Sri Bhagavan or think of your Guru as somebody who has devoted himself to Satya. Lobha upasthit hone par tyaga vairagya. Think of somebody who is free from lobha, who has actually done the sacrifice and who lives a very simple life. So when we think of people who have those qualities then become easier for us to adopt. They inspire us. These people who have these qualities in them, thinking about them inspires us also to develop those qualities. And those people includes Bhagavan and his bhaktas, the different sadhus. Okay, so this is about Ishvara Pranidhan. And through doing these 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, we are able to practice a consciousness. We're able to develop the consciousness which is required for our spiritual perfection and acquire prema. So this is the operationalization of what we are studying in the Gita, and I'll speak more about this. We can actually develop specific actions that each of us can practice in our life as we read these things. So for today, I will stop with this. I also wanted to touch upon a metaphor in the Bhagavatam, but I will keep it for the next week. In the next week class, we will do a couple of metaphors too as we summarize the 15th chapter, and then we will go forward. So I will stop with this for today, and I'll be happy to hear your questions, comments, etc.
Yes, sir. Since no one else has any questions, so I took the liberty of asking.
Please.
Otherwise, I could have waited for a while. Sir, so in the shloka today, you mentioned about guhyatamam, that is the most secretive knowledge. And now you also mentioned that why is it guhyatamam, and you also touched upon that not everyone is receptive of this knowledge or may not take this
Yeah.
the right way. But you also talked about getting papa if someone is not taking it with the right mindset. You talked something on those lines as well. So can you please elaborate on it?
Yes. If somebody ridicules, it's a design of nature that if somebody ridicules Bhagavan, if somebody ridicules the Bhagavad-Gita or Shastra in general, the Veda, the Shastra, and so on, if somebody says something, nasty about it or something that condemns it, then there is pap involved in it. Pap comes in different ways. Primarily, pap comes by the action of adharma. Adharma leads to papa. Dharma leads to punya. So the activity of criticizing Bhagavan, ridiculing Bhagavan, or ridiculing the Shastra. When I say criticizing, I mean specifically saying nasty things, making fun of it, or making fun of people who are following it. Okay, that incurs pap. And that is the reason why we should not openly go and stand and speak about this. We have a class like this where we voluntarily invite people who are interested in it and tell them that, if you're interested, please join. We will talk about it. So only those who are interested can come, at least in their mind, there is no ridicule. And they may not understand everything, that's fine. Not understanding everything is not ridicule, is not a pap. Understanding takes time. And some people may not be able to accept everything. Like Arjuna also in this Bhagavad Gita, he plays the role of a of a typical person who is not able to immediately accept whatever Bhagavan says. Bhagavan says so many things here. Like we see, for example, Arjuna after hearing the 10th chapter. In the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sri Bhagavan talks about his different types of vibhutis, right? He reveals his Aishwarya, his vibhuti, his splendor. Now, after hearing all that, it is too grand. Arjuna says, how can, this person that I know, Krishna, is my friend, my cousin, and now my charioteer. And he's saying, I am this, I am that, I am the source of the sun, the moon, I'm the light, I'm everything. How is it possible? So he is not able to accept it. Okay. Now, just because he's not able to accept it in the sense he's not fully convinced, that doesn't become pap by itself. Okay. Because he just asks, after that, he just asks Krishna that in the 11th chapter, he says that you have spoken all this, but I want to see, I really want to see your form. So it's very clear from the first 5 shlokas of the 11th chapter that Arjuna has difficulty in accepting what Sri Bhagavan has just said. He is doubting, and therefore he wants more evidence for what Bhagavan has claimed himself to be. And then that is a prompt, and Bhagavan then says, okay, if I didn't expect that you will accept whatever I say. And if you want to see my real form, now see it. And he shows the Vishwarupa. So that is fine. That is not ridicule. Ridicule means when you very vehemently condemn or you try to put down somebody just because they're talking about this. That becomes pap. That is what I meant. So we should be careful not to try to convince other people if you sense that they are not interested in it or they are not willing to listen to it.
So even if out of complete ignorance, if someone makes such strong, vehemently ridiculing statements against the Shastras, so that also would be uh, accruing pap to those. For
Yeah,
example, we see that there are certain narratives or say certain movements or actual physical movements which happen in the society wherein out of ignorance people make certain comments about the shastras which we can clearly say that they do not have the correct understanding, that is why these statements are being made,
yeah,
but even then they would be incurring some papa.
yes. They would incur pap for doing that. The magnitude of the pap may differ from person to person. If they're just making a statement, there is definitely some pap, and that probably will cloud their consciousness. It'll have an effect on their thinking, their mental state, may create more anxiety for them that they may not realize is because they're talking like this. It's not like the pap of going and killing a cow. That pap is different. So pap is all of different magnitudes, and the reactions to the pap, you can say the phala, the phalam that you get, the fruit of the pap, is different. Right? But still, there is some pap in it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I had one more question, but it was related more to Shri Krishna than this chapter per se.
Mm.
So, on multiple instances, for example, say Shri Jagannath. So, I have heard this term Chaturvyu. So, can you please elaborate more on what Chaturvyu of Shri Krishna or Shri Vishnu is?
Chaturvyu is the set of 4 forms that Sri Bhagavan expands himself into. They are called Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Vasudeva, Pradyumna, uh, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. The 4 forms in which he expands himself. And from his Gokula form, his most original form is the Gokula. The Bhagavatam says, the one that we are reading about now in the Bhagavatam, a small little boy in Vrindavan. Now, from that form, he expands into other forms for different functions that he does, the different ways in which he interacts with his bhaktas. So, this set of 4 is called Chaturvyu.
So, sir, is this Chaturvyu particular to Gaudiya Vaishnavism or this is accepted by other schools of Vaishnavism also?
Uh, I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of whether other schools, how they understand it. It's based on the Bhagavatam. This comes from the Bhagavatam. So, whether the other schools which refer to the other Shastra, Bhagavatam is considered the most, the core Shastra for the Gaudiya Sampradaya, Srimad Bhagavatam. Other Sampradayas, like for example, the Ramanuja Sampradaya, consider
Hmm.
Vishnu Puran as the highest. Although they also respect Bhagavatam, they also cite from Bhagavatam many times. They regard it very high, but Vishnu Puran for them is more core than Bhagavatam. Similarly, the Madhvas, also they also regard Bhagavatam very high, but for them the Mahabharata is core, is more, they cite more from Mahabharata and Bhagavad-gita than from the Bhagavatam. So whether they all accept the Chaturvyuha or not, I'll have to do some investigation and find out.
Okay, sir. Sir, can you elaborate more on the fourfold expansion that you talked about? What is the function or role of each of these?
They are different forms of Krishna. They have all have four hands. Krishna manifests himself with four hands, like he does in Dwaraka. Uh, in Vrindavan, he has only two hands. He manifests only two hands. So these four forms of his perform different functions. I'm not able to elaborate more at present. One thing I can add here is that his form of Sankarshana, for example, becomes Balram. So when he comes to the Bhuloka, when he does his Leela here, he manifests these forms in different ways. Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva in Mathura, right? And Sankarshana is Balram. He comes as Balram. Sankarshana, his form as Sankarshana becomes Balram. His form as Pradyumna becomes his son. Krishna's son is Pradyumna. Then his form as Aniruddha becomes his grandson. Pradyumna's son is Aniruddha. So in these forms manifest in this manner in his Leelas. They're all him. They're all him coming in different ways. Sankarshana is Balaram and who also comes as Anantasesha. Anantasesha is the same as Lakshmana. So Sankarshana, Lakshmana, Aniruddha, I mean this Balaram, they're all the same. Of course, when he comes as in the Ramayana, when he comes as Ram, Sri Ram, then also you will see that he comes in four forms, right? Rama and Lakshmana are Vasudeva and Sankarshana. And then the other two, Bharata, Shatrughna are the other two, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, four forms. So four forms of Vishnu. Actually, in the Dashavatara, we list only Rama avatar, right? But actually four of them. Vishnu comes in four forms as Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna. All of them are Vishnu.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And even in the Jagannath temple, where there is Sri Balaram, Subhadra, and Sri Jagannath, so are they also some kind of the Chaturvyu?
Balaram is part of the Chaturvyu. Subhadra is not. She is
Okay,
a part of his Shakti.
right.
She is, you can say, in the same category as Durga Ma. Durga is a sister. She relates with Vishnu as a sister. Subhadra is in that category as Durga, the sister of.
Okay. And sir, I have also seen, apart from these three deities, there is one pillar or something, some small kind of.
Sudarshan
Uh,
Chakra. In,
okay.
in Puri, all the four are worshipped together. Jagannath, Balabhadra, Subhadra, and Sudarshan.
So the chakra is also depicted on one of the hands, right? Shankh and chakra of Sri Jagannath. So there is one separate post for Sudarshan chakra as well.
Yeah, that's what is the post. Yeah, post is next to. It's on the, I think, left side of Jagannath, the
Right.
building.
Yes, sir. Left side.
That's Sudarshan. Bhagavan Sudarshan Chakra. It's kept
Okay,
there.
sir.
Hello, sir. Pranam.
Pranam Prapti. Tell.
So I have a question, but it is totally not related to the class, but related to some of the practice that we are doing. So I just thought that this forum might be right to ask it.
Okay.
So we blow this conch shell every day, Shankh.
Ah.
But we are confused about how to maintain it. As in, at some places we read that after blowing the conch shell, we must wash it and then keep water inside it, and then keep. But if we leave water inside it every day, we saw some green or some other algae growth, and then we
Yeah.
don't know how to maintain it or clean it. Can you guide us how should we maintain
Yeah.
the conch shell?
Yeah. After blowing it, you can just pour water through it from
Okay.
the top, the hole. The water will flow through it. You just
Okay.
pour water to it, or just rinse it once, like you rinse a glass. You can
Okay.
rinse with the jug. You can pour some water through it and rinse it, and then just wipe it or shake it dry. Just shake it dry and keep it in the proper place. There would be some place in your house, right?
Yes, yes.
Keep it in that place. Wipe it, and keep it. That's all.
So it should be kept
Don't.
dry, right?
It should be kept dry. Yes, it should be kept dry. It should not be kept with water in it.
Okay. And is there any also guidance? It should be kept upright, or which side it should be kept?
Normally, it is kept with the opening facing upwards.
Okay.
That is how I have seen it being kept, and that's how I don't keep it in my house, although I have it inside a trunk. I
Okay.
don't keep it outside. But if I were to keep it outside, I would keep it like that,
Okay.
with the opening facing upwards. That's
Okay.
how it is. So it rests on that the bulky portion,
Okay.
the front portion, the bulby portion. It rests on that. The weight, because the bulk of the weight is on that, no?
Yes, yes, yes.
Protruding portion is the less
Yes.
weighty that
Yes.
protrudes outside. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hmm.
Sir, this is Aruna Bhaiya, sir.
Yes, Arunabha. Yes.
Pranam, sir. Sir, I would like to narrate one incident, sir, that you just talked about, that car keys thing. There is something similar that happened, sir, with one of my known persons.
Yeah.
And this is a very old story, sir. And this is a real story that had happened, sir.
Okay.
So a person was moving from Delhi to Panipat on the highway, the national highway, Delhi to Panipat. And the person was driving, on those days, it was the Maruti 800. Okay, it's a very old story. Maruti 800, the person was driving. And in those areas, in Haryana, that area, people have large machines which they use for harvesting. I believe they
Yeah.
are called harvester or something. That's what they're called. So they're very large machines, almost as large as trucks. And they have a bike on top of them. They load the bike on top of them, and they drive on them. So this Uncle Ji, who was driving from Delhi to Panipat, he happened to be crossing that thing from the wrong side, crossing harvester from the wrong side. And at that very instance, the bike, there was a collision and the bike fell on him.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
This happened to him. And then he doesn't know what happened. He lost his consciousness. He doesn't know what happened. And then he was in a hospital. So when he was
Yeah.
narrating the story, he said that I don't know what happened at that time. I don't know who took me from there, who took me up, picked me up from the road. The person was picked up from the road, brought to a hospital, and was given the doses and all those stuff. But he doesn't know anything about the person who did it for him.
Yeah.
So he was saying that till date, humanity is not gone, and there are people who, the person didn't stay back to say, give me this, give me that. He didn't
Yes.
stay back. So he actually doesn't know what happened or who did it, who did that
Yes.
favor for him.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
thought something I should be sharing for this.
Yeah.
Something similar.
Yes. Yes. So actually, I also had a similar experience when I had an accident, and on road accident, and I became unconscious, and somebody unknown to me completely found myself on a bed, hospital bed, with intravenous this thing being given, drips being given to revive me. So I remember that kindness of that stranger, and I don't know who that person is. And many others who, after I became conscious, the others who helped me also were very kind. They didn't ask for anything in return. So our kindness comes out when we see somebody suffering. At least that much of paropakara is left in us, right? In this age in Kali
Yeah.
Yuga. Might be otherwise selfish, and otherwise we may be very political, selfish, etc. But when we see somebody genuinely suffering, then our kindness comes out, and then without expecting anything in return, we are willing to help them. To that extent, daya is still there.
Sir.
Now, the paropakar that the Shastra speaks about is, goes beyond that, in the sense, it's not only when you see somebody extremely suffering, in an extreme condition of suffering like that, in an accident or something, but even otherwise, when they are living their normal life and they go through different kinds of challenges of this type, wishing well for them, not doing anything which will jeopardize their life, or trying to put them down. Daya we have to practice. We practice.
Sir.
Good.
Sir, I
Thank you
have
for.
a question.
Yeah.
Sir. So go ahead, sir, please.
No, I just said thank you for sharing this. It's very relevant in our discussion.
Sir. Sir, in one of the previous classes, sir, you had mentioned about the various lokas, the bhu-loka, the par-loka. Do you have that list with you, sir? Which are the lokas, various lokas? I think there were 13 or 14 of them, if I'm not wrong, sir.
14 lokas in all, yes.
Sir,
Correct.
can you just give them? If you have it on the top of your head, can you just give it? Or maybe
Yeah.
I'll ask for it on a mail.
Yeah, I can tell you now, and I can also
Sir.
send you that file in which I have saved it. If you send me a reminder later, I can send you the file.
Sir,
So
I'll then send an email, sir. That will be better.
An email. Okay, sure. Sure, please do that. I'll send
Sir.
you that file.
Sir. Sir, also my last thing, sir. Tomorrow our Mahakumbh is starting, sir.
Okay.
Right. So if you can just tell us what is the some significance of it and what should we be doing to be a part of the Mahakumbh. So if you can just guide us on that.
Aruna, there's nothing to do from our side unless you want to be a part of it. It's just one type of celebration. You can go to the internet and just search on it. I mean, there's so much literature available. I've also read only on the internet. Attending the Mahakumbh or doing anything in connection with the Mahakumbh is not a part of my sadhana. For some people, it
Sir.
is. It's a part of the dharmic ecosystem, no doubt about it. It's based on the Veda only. So those who follow it, they follow it seriously, and they should follow it. So you can read about it.
Sir.
I don't know much about it off my mind because I don't participate in it.
Sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
It would be interesting though to see how they're organizing it. I mean, the government now, even the last Mahakumbh that happened, they took a lot of interest, right? And
Sir.
this also, I believe, so many arrangements are being made. There's a whole tent city there in Prayagraj. Everything is now set up, and I'm sure, next 1 month we are going to keep getting WhatsApp messages and news everywhere. The news will be about what's happening in the Mahakumbh. So
Sir.
we'll have a lot to hear
Sir.
from. Yeah.
Sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, maybe after the Mahakumbh is over, we should visit. If you can visit now, then maybe good, you can go. But if you cannot visit now for because of your job or whatever, then after the Mahakumbh is over, whenever you can, visit the place and see how that place was set up.
Sir.
The arrangement made, and it's a spectacle, I believe.
Sir, and then what are these akhadas? They're saying that first the Naga sannyasis will have a bath, then the people from the akhadas.
Groups of people, like communities of practitioners. There are different types of Babas living all over the country, right? They have different types of sadhana, different types of shraddha, different types of sadhana. So different streams. There's so many numerous streams actually in our country, numerous streams of spiritual sadhana. So they will all be coming, different parts of India. So many Swamis come there. A huge gathering. I don't think anywhere else in the world, I don't think any other part of the world will see a spectacle of this type where people gather, so many people of so much variety gather together and celebrate a common festival. Probably the biggest festival on earth, I think.
Sir. Thank you, sir.
Puneet, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Sir, it is related to little bit of our classes, sir. I want to ask that the people who are little conscious and who are moving towards spirituality, there are different levels. Some are beginners, some are very high, babas or saints. So, sir, what are their actual choice to go to is for bhakti for a god or to attain liberation? Most of the people, but I personally feel is 99% of people are not moving towards the god, but they are moving towards the mukti. They want mukti rather than the god. That is why they are practicing and they are worshipping all these things are into spirituality. So please guide something about this thing that ultimate there is a love. We say it, we love god and we are practicing satvikta and we are doing bhakti, but is it actually bhakti or we are just want a mukti?
It's true. What you said is correct, because most people, they come to spirituality or religion because the motivation comes from avoiding suffering, overcoming suffering. A lot of people come to spirituality after they go through some very difficult situations in life. Sri Bhagavan says in the fourth chapter, seventh chapter of Gita, this is the 16th shloka of the seventh chapter. It says, Chaturvidha bhajante mam janaha sukritino arjuna arto jigyasur artharti jnani cha bharatarshava. Artha, four types are: Artha means one who is in distress. Second is Jigyasu, one who is very curious to know about the reality, to know about truth. The third category is Artharti, one who wants some material returns, material prosperity. And finally, Jnani. Jnani means the Bhakta. Here in this context, it means the Bhakta, who is knowledgeable about Bhagavan. So that category is the smallest. So the biggest category is the one that he lists first. Artha means the people who are in distress. So somebody might be an atheist all their life, but at some point of time in their life, they may experience something which is completely, turning their world upside down, completely shakes them up. And at that point, it is possible that they may turn to God. They were atheists before, but they may turn to God and may say that, okay, now I understand. And then they start doing sadhana and they want to become free from misery. For them, the motivation is that when they think about God, they become free from misery. They become free. So that is one extreme case. Of course, I gave an extreme example, but even many other people. Just 2 days back, we had visitors on the campus. Those of you who are on the campus may have heard. Okay, I can see no one like that is here. But these were people from the government of India. The government of India has a platform called like Coursera for the government officials. It's called Karma Yogi. It's called I Got Karma Yogi. So government of India has created a huge online platform with courses that professors like me or like so many professors all over the country will develop for the benefit of government officials. And the leading personality in the team, one of the leading personalities in the team who is actively building this, lady, she came and she was talking to us. And when I spoke to her, I was asking her about developing a course on Bhagavad-Gita. I asked her if it would be of interest to the government officials to learn about Bhagavad-Gita, how Bhagavad-Gita inspires leadership and so on. And she said, yes, very much. She encouraged me to develop a course like that. So now I have to think about it. But in doing that, she told me that in her life, the Gita has played an important role and plays an important role. Okay, I didn't know that before, but she revealed that. She said, what she experiences, she has not studied the Gita, nor does she know what it contains. She only knows that the Gita has a lot of shlokas in it. Okay. And when she was a child, her grandmother used to, call her and make her recite some shloka. So as a child, she would just do what her grandmother told her, she would recite. So in this way, she became familiar with the Gita and some shlokas. And she says now, every now and then she takes out the Gita. She carries a Gita with her and she takes it out and she reads some shloka and the translation in English because she doesn't understand Sanskrit. So she reads in English. And when she reads, she says, I feel so good. All my anxiety goes away. I read the Gita shloka and I read the translation and I go to sleep. And then I find that when I wake up in the morning, I'm feeling so good. I'm feeling fresh. The Gita is the best book in the world. She told me this. Okay. So I went to her just to ask her whether the government officials will be interested in having a course on Gita. And in return, she told me all these things. So a lot of people look at spirituality as a means to get relief from misery, relief from distress, right? And mukti is nothing but the perfection of that. Mukti is perfection of freedom from all misery. Mukti means no longer being under any kind of misery, becoming completely free from misery. That is called mukti. And that is what we are discussing. In fact, the Gita is actually more directly about mukti than about bhakti. In the Gita, bhakti is spoken about as a means to get mukti. Bhakti, without bhakti, one cannot get mukti. Even a person who is not a bhakta, like the way we are talking about bhakti, uh, has to do some kind of bhakti. Even if he is just a jnani who is going for mukti, he has to perform some kind of bhakti to be able to get mukti. So in the Gita, mukti is the main topic, actually, the main goal that is shown. And bhakti is shown as a means to get mukti. That is how the Gita talks about bhakti and mukti. And the way I am talking about bhakti as something that is far beyond mukti. Bhakti is not just a means for mukti, but bhakti is a state of existence that even a person who has got mukti will look up to and say that, wow, this is what I want. Mukti looks so insignificant to me when I understand what bhakti is or when I experience bhakti. And so bhakti is the goal that we are talking about in our sabha. Bhakti is what we should aim for. Mukti is a subset of that. Mukti automatically comes if somebody gets bhakti.
Yes,
But
sir.
you're right in saying that most people are aiming for mukti. Correct.
And sir, once we have learned from the classes that there are people who do not need want mukti, but they are aiming for every birth. They want to be Hari Bhakti or they need this kind of thing. And some people goes for the mukti. Is there anything specifically said in the Gita that the rebirth will take place, or the person in case of mukti he will go to Vaikuntha Dham, or the every time he will take birth and he will be Hari Bhakti? Is there anything specifically given in Gita, Bhagavad Gita?
No, the Gita only talks about becoming a mukta and not experiencing the samsara again. Like in the 15th chapter also there was a shloka which said that once you experience this, once you reach that state, you will not come back to this state again. Yat gatva na nivartante tat dhama paramam mama. So the Gita only talks about going to that state of mukti and not coming back to a state of samsara again, bandhana. But where does this thinking come from that I am not pursuing mukti, I'm pursuing only bhakti, and janma after janma I want only bhakti? This comes from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is actually from the Bhagavatam. The
Oh,
Bhagavatam shows bhakti to be a far superior goal than mukti. And mukti as a side effect of that. Mukti is a side effect of bhakti. So the person who is genuine, genuinely in bhakti, does not pursue mukti as the goal. He pursues only bhakti, and he does not think that my aim is to just not be born again. He's prepared to be born again if Sri Bhagavan wants that, if it serves Sri Bhagavan's purpose. That is the bond he has with Bhagavan. Just like Bhagavan himself comes, he does his avatar every now and then. Says every time he comes, I also want to come. I also, I want to do seva to him wherever I am. Mukti is not the goal for me. Seva is the goal.
thank you, sir. Thank you for solving queries.
Good. Are there any other questions today?
Uh, Sir, just actually, Akshat
Yes,
here, Pranam.
yes, Pranam.
Sir, just had a couple of questions, and I'm not sure whether we have time to cover it, but just thought of asking. Two things, sir. One is that when we talk about sins that we have committed in the past, and the karma related to that, many people believe that whatever sins have already been committed, for that the due penalty kind of has to be paid.
Yeah.
But I came across, I think it was by Srila Prabhupada.
Hmm.
He quotes a verse from the Bhagavad Gita saying that basically to the effect that in the Gita, Krishna says that if you surrender onto me
Hmm.
completely, immediately all your sins are basically absolved.
Yes.
So I was not sure whether that is, what is the kind of thought on that. And
Yes.
on a slightly related note, sir, I also came across this phrase called achintya bheda bhed.
Hmm.
There is this concept of, simultaneously being distinct and one, something to that effect. So in
Yes.
case you could share any thoughts on that, sir.
Yeah. So as regards your first question, the shloka that you are referring to is Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchah. So he says that this is the 18th chapter, 66th or 67th shloka. So he says that if you take my refuge, then I will free you from all papa. So what he basically means is that the tendency to commit pap, the mentality of pap will be taken away. That there is no possibility, if one takes complete refuge in Bhagavan, then there's no possibility that they will commit pap again. At least intentionally they will not commit pap, and unintentionally if something happens also, Sri Bhagavan will remove that pap from that person. He protects that person. And what about the past pap that we have done before we began to do bhakti? Now that pap, the effect of that pap either is completely removed, nullified. Uttama bhakti, if one is doing pure Uttama bhakti, the effect of that pap is completely removed. Or if one is not yet in the stage of Uttama bhakti but still is doing bhakti, is struggling with bhakti and so on, then that pap to some extent might still be there, but Bhagavan protects the bhakta. He arranges for that pap to be delivered in such a manner that that bhakta will only learn from it. He will guide the bhakta through that pap. The reaction of that pap comes, and he protects the bhakta in the matter of making progress, spiritual progress. He does not allow the bhakta to perish. Right? Name bhakta pranashyati, he says. So that is the answer to question 1. The answer to question 2 is about Achintya Bheda Bheda. That is the name of the Vedantic, you can say, school or the Vedantic interpretation given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this term comes from Sri Baladev Vidyabhushana, who wrote a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra called the Govinda Bhashya. Essentially what it says is that there is oneness in identity with the Bhagavan and a distinction from Bhagavan. Both exist. So it's actually bringing together two other paradigms. The first paradigm is Advaita. Advaita understanding of Vedanta is that there is only one being, and that one being thinks that it has become the Jivatma. Okay, I also explained to you on email. So that is the Advaita understanding. There's no second being at all. There's only one being. And there's no distinct entity called the Jivatma. Jivatma is only a conception, a upadhi. It's only a perception of that same one being, that I have now become Jivatma. But there is no, and once knowledge, pure knowledge is discovered, then that being realizes that I was never the Jivatma. I only thought like that. This is Advaita. But the opposite of this is the Dvaita school. The Dvaita school of Vedanta, which is Madhvacharya, propounded this and brought out the Dvaita understanding. In that understanding, there is no question of one being. It's always separate. Only Bheda, Ishvara Jiva Bheda, Ishvara Jada Bheda, Jada Jiva Bheda. This Bhed is always eternal. And the Jivas are distinct entities. The Ishvara is distinct from them. There's no oneness in identity at all. And this oneness is not a upadhi. This Jivatma being is not a upadhi. This is Dvaita, contrasting to Advaita. Now, Achintya Bheda Bheda actually can be seen as bringing together both of them. They accept both the aspect of Advaita. There is a oneness which is present, but more fundamental to the oneness is the distinction. The Bhed between Jivatma and Paramatma is more fundamental, and in that there is also oneness, because the Jivatma is actually in qualities, in its basic nature of being Atma is the same as the Paramatma, and has a similar, can become very similar in its thinking, can adopt the same bhav that Bhagavan has. In all those ways, there is oneness with Bhagavan. So oneness, that Bhagavatta, is also present in the Jivatma, but in identity, the Jivatma is never the Bhagavan. In identity, they are always distinct, and the Jivatma is always, inferior, or you can say subservient to the Bhagavan. This distinction is always there. It's not just an upadhi. This is Achintya Bheda Bheda. And why is the word Achintya used there? The word Achintya is used because it is something that we cannot logically arrive at. We cannot derive this understanding logically. Achintya is that which is only understood through the Shastra Praman or Shabda Praman. Only through Shastra we come to know that this is possible. We can derive this from the Shastra. Based on the words of the Shastra, we can reason out this understanding. We cannot find it elsewhere otherwise. We cannot go through Anumana Praman or Pratyaksha Praman. So in some future class, I will explain the different types of Praman. I'll explain what is meant by Praman, its epistemology, and how understanding Praman is very important when we understand the Shastra. Why do we give the words of the Shastra the supreme position more than any other form of knowledge? That we understand when we go through the different Pramanas. So I will spend time on it in a future class and explain that to you. But for now, the understanding is that Achintya means that something that can be understood only through the Shastra, not otherwise.
Understood, sir. Thank you so much.
Good. I presume there are no other questions. It's now 8 o'clock. Shall we close? Okay. So please chant the Antyamangalam. We will do the Hare Krishna mantra. Please chant the Hare Krishna mantra when I am chanting the same. This was a metaphor. I'll do it in the next class. And now I'll go back to this slide and we'll do the Antyamangal. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobhramanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Lokas Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dhanyavada. Thank you for joining us today.